Hello and welcome to a literally freezing Gosport marina. There is snow underfoot on the pontoons and someone's even taken the time to build a little snowman here. The reason we're here in these conditions is to test this, the Hardy 65, and the plan is to take it over to Guernsey tomorrow. The only issue being the forecast is saying gale force 8, very high winds and very rough seas in the channel. So the plan is to get up, poke our heads out the window, see what it's like and go from there. But for now the kettle's on, so we're going to head inside. This is bed for the night, tucked up here in the VIP cabin. Fingers crossed for better weather than they forecast for tomorrow, but for now it's a good night.
Morning.
Good morning. Well, there hasn't been a miraculous weather change. The forecast is the same. So it looks like plan A may have been scuppered a bit. We felt it was a bit irresponsible given freezing temperatures and force 8 forecast in the middle of the channel. No matter how capable the boat, it's a bit irresponsible to do that if you don't have to go over there. So we're going to go to plan B, which is to take the boat down to Poole in what should still be some quite tasty weather, and we're going to stop via Yarmouth as well to get some photography. So that's the plan. I think that's the first time I've had to scrape snow off the decks before leaving a berth. Lovely. Well, it all seemed a bit benign when we left Portsmouth, but we've decided to go to Yarmouth the long way round and head around the southern side of the Isle of Wight, and as we're heading east now into the breeze, it is beginning to kick up, and I think it'll kick up even more as we leave the Solent and head around the south side of the island. But you know, we're punching along at 18, 19 knots here. We've got the Vector fin stabilisers from Sleipner here, just taking the sting out of the motion, and yeah, I mean all is well. But we'll see what we find as we head around the south side of the island. So we're just rounding the eastern tip of the Isle now, and it is beginning to properly kick up. There's some quite steep waves out here, and they're sort of coming along in our port quarter. And there are occasions where we're just getting slightly caught in the wave pattern, and the speed is rocketing from between 25 knots and sort of 12 knots as we go up the backs of these waves. But you know, we can see it all going on out there, but you're extremely isolated from it in here. The fins are doing their thing. The engines are just sort of a distant hum ticking along in the background, and you know, we're doing sort of 100 litres per hour on each engine. But you'd have no idea really of quite how severe the conditions are. It's lovely and calm and tranquil up here in the wheelhouse. We're closing in on the Needles now, and things have calmed down a wee bit, so we should probably talk a bit about the engines and performance on this boat. Hull number 1, the Hardy 62 as it was called then, had 1200 horsepower MANs. This has got 800 horsepower MANs, so that's a top speed of in the region of 20 knots depending on how much fuel and water you've got on board. So performance isn't as high as that original boat. So really you're going to find that your fast cruising speed is in the region of 16-17 knots, which is what we're doing right now, and that's giving us a fuel burn of 110 litres per hour per engine. Of course, you drop down to 10 knots replacement speeds, that range is going to shoot up, but for what we're doing now, this speed of sort of 16-17 knots feels very comfortable, and that is probably the sort of speed you're going to find yourself travelling at most of the time, to be honest. Well, we've made it round. Horrible little short chop as we came in to the western Solent there, but we're just hovering outside of Yarmouth, deciding on a plan of action. It's high tide and the swell is really rolling in there, so we'll pop our heads in and see what it looks like before we make our decision. Well, we've had to abort that plan. High tide, wind and swell whisking straight into Yarmouth, so little protection in there that it just wouldn't have been safe really to try and come alongside, and we'd have to do it twice to drop Richard off to take some snaps. So we're going to have to move on to Poole and hope we can get something there. But wow, you really get to appreciate the conditions when you leave the safety and comfort of the wheelhouse. Well, it takes a little trip up to the Flybridge to realise quite how high the winds are today. It really is blowing hard now, and the angle of the wind and the swell going into Yarmouth there, we may well have got onto one of the walk ashore pontoons, but I think we'd have struggled to get off with the wind the way it is. So safest thing to do was to leave the harbour sharpish, and now we're going to head directly to Poole from here and hope we can get something at the other end. Almost 5 hours on the water exactly now, and we are coming through Poole Harbour all safe and sound, and that's been a great rundown for the 65. We've had a really good selection of sea conditions: big rolling following sea, short head sea, a big head sea, and the boat has dealt with everything really comfortably. And honestly, we probably could have crossed the channel today, but with the wind increasing to force 8, it just didn't seem sensible to go out to mid-channel, potentially put ourselves, the boat, and the people who might have to rescue us at risk if something did go wrong. So probably the right decision, but no doubt the boat could have handled it. And the overwhelming feeling is just how well this thing insulates you from the conditions. We've been boiling the kettle, having cups of coffee, barely had to touch the throttles. It just chugs along, pushing everything out of the way, and does what it's designed to do. Brilliant. Now we're safely tucked up in Poole Quay, we can have a look at the interior, because it's significantly different from hull number 1, which we tested a few years ago. That interior was traditional, a bit dark, galley tucked down below. This is the interior that this boat should always have had. It's warm, it's modern, and it's very comfortable. And the layout changes really improve the way the boat works. Having the galley here where it is amidships is great for a boat of this style, where you're going to be doing long-legged cruising. We've had it today. People are up, sat at the helm, but you can easily come back to the galley, make a cup of tea, make a sandwich, and you're still on the same deck as the skipper, and you can still be on watch. You have 2 main seating areas. You have the more laid-back area aft, and then you have your internal dinette here. This is great for breakfast. It's also good impromptu chart area as well. And then moving forward, we have the helm station, which we've already talked about. But this is a boat that is equipped to go a long way. You have everything you need here for all different conditions. It has night vision, this particular boat. You have cameras so that you can see all different corners, all from the helm. It's a boat that is set up to go places, and that is obvious from the off. And this is a really great little spot as well. Spent a lot of time here on the 5 or 6 hours we've been on the boat today. It means that you can keep the skipper company, but you also have a bit of space for charts. To have some instruments out here works really well. But now we're going to have a look at the accommodation. For a 65-foot boat, if it's sheer sleeping space you want, then this particular layout may not work particularly well for you, because this third cabin here is just a single bed, not double bunks, but the 2 main cabins are nice and spacious and very comfortable. You have a forward VIP here, which has got scissor action berths, so you can easily change them from a pair of twins to a double, and that is en suite, really nice en suite with a separate shower cubicle, and that also acts as the day heads. And then in midships, you have a major change over the hull number 1 that we tested a couple of years ago, because you have a proper luxurious midships master cabin with big hull windows, walk-in wardrobe, really luxurious separate ensuite, and like the saloon, it's finished to the right standard as well. Now this is a lazarette that belongs to a serious cruising boat. Full standing headroom, mountains of extra storage, there's a sink down here, water maker, your washing machine, some extra cooling space, and then just all the room there is to store cruising gear. This is a boat that's designed to be at sea for a very long time. And going hand in hand with that is the engine access, because you step through this watertight door into an engine room that is like a surgical theatre. Clean as a whistle, brilliantly lit. Everything is really easy to access. Again, headroom is superb. You can get around all sides of the engine, and it's so beautifully neat and laid out. It's exactly what you'd expect of a Category A boat that is designed to tackle big journeys. The Flybridge demonstrates another significant improvement over hull number 1. It's a much better layout, far more usable and practical, and much more comfortable too. So you have a really good central helm location there with 2 seats, and then you have it flanked by more seating so that guests can join the captain navigator when the boat's on passage. And then you have your main seating area, the focal point round here under the shelter of the radar arch, which of course has a bimini if you want it as an option. This boat has an enormous spec on it, so it has the tender up here with a crane up on the Flybridge, but it also has a high-low bathing platform, so feasibly you could keep your tender down there and leave this space here free for whatever you'd like to do with it really. But in general, the reworking that they've done of this Flybridge makes it such a more effective living area. Of course, all of this equipment and capability does not come cheap. This boat on the water came in at £2.17 million before VAT. That said, it does now have an interior that justifies that price tag, and, as it proved on this test, it's a boat that will look after you, whatever the weather.